I got started in real estate, real estate investing because of my kids. I wanted to be able to have any type of job that I could work from home.
You're listening to the We Love Equity Real Estate Show, a podcast that discusses the intricacies of real estate investing with your host, Marcus E. Maloney. Marcus is a real estate investor best known for being the equity king. He's been awarded that moniker because he and his team find amazing real estate deals. He will be talking with investors who have done some transformational things in the real estate industry. They'll discuss their process, their strategies, and how their investments transform their lives and the communities they invest in. We welcome you to the We Love Equity Real Estate Show.
Hello, We Love Equity Real Estate family. Welcome to another show. Thank you guys for being here. We definitely appreciate your support. And on today, we have a very special guest. Our guest today is Lauren, who hails from California. Lauren is an investor with a people-first approach to business, investing in hundreds of properties in her career. Lauren has the unique reputation of being a successful virtual investor. Having not lived in many of the states she invests in, Lauren has been persevere in extremely competitive markets by constantly following the market changes and being flexible and willing to move market territories when needed. She currently lives in SoCal with her two daughters, but invests in properties all over the country. So Lauren, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Great. Welcome to the show. So you're in SoCal, Southern California. I'm here in Phoenix, so we're neighbors. So give me, I know I read your bio, but give us the snippet of what you're doing. I know you're a virtual wholesaler. So guys, you guys looking to invest in other markets, this is definitely the conversation and the person that you want to speak to. So Lauren, give us a little insight on your background.
So I've been investing in real estate for about 8 years now. I started out as a house flipper and I was in my backyard for quite a bit. I live in Orange County, California.
Okay.
8 years ago, I was flipping houses in Orange County and the neighboring counties, LA, Inland Empire. And it was great until the market started heating up. And once it started heating up, it became very difficult to get off-market properties at a discount and to get the margins that, I needed to get to make the investments worthwhile, to make the investments safe.
Okay.
So after, a few years of that and, getting kind of frustrated, I decided to take my business virtually. I started at first kind of doing a little bit of both. I was investing in California, still flipping homes if I could get the deals, but I was diversified. I started building houses in Nashville, Tennessee. That was like my first virtual venture.
Okay. Well, before we get there.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
jumping ahead.
I know once we get going, we're off into the races.
Yeah.
So tell me, why real estate? Why did you get started in real estate in the beginning?
I got started in real estate, real estate investing because of my kids. I wanted to be able to have any type of job that I could work from home.
Okay.
I would have really done honestly anything. So I just wanted to work from home. I have two little girls. So It was very important to me that I did something where either I was working from home, I was self-employed, anything. But I was actually in real estate before, but I worked corporate real estate. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was really based out of necessity. You wanted a lifestyle, with your kids, to be at home with the kids, and that's why you decided to go in the real estate. Okay. And that's a perfect reason why to do it. A lot of people say, well, I wanted real estate because I wanted the financial freedom. I wanted to be independent. Well, a good reason for you doing it is, you had two girls. So that was definitely your motivation. So making that transition from the corporate side of real estate into real estate investing, how did that happen? What was that first deal? What opened your eyes up to doing something different?
Well, it's funny. So when you say, that I did not aspire to make a ton of money. I really just wanted time freedom. That was what was most important to me. So I had a dollar amount in my head and I said, if I could save 1 year's salary, I will quit my full-time job and I won't quit until then. I was going into, at that time, I wasn't making that much money, honestly, with my
Okay.
salary. And I had this number in my head, like, okay, well, if, considering how much we pay in childcare, and how
Very
much, if
expensive.
I, very expensive, right? So I came up with like this dollar amount, which really only amounted to about 2 deals
Okay.
that like, that like would then be worth it to quit my corporate job. So that's essentially, kind of where my head was at financially. But yeah, my first deals, I was working full time. I started with direct mail.
Okay.
And I just started sending these letters out to sellers that were in Orange County. I actually focused on condos, which was like funny. I picked just
That's
like
different.
just condos in my area, and mainly because I was scared to spend too much money. I didn't want to like
Okay.
end up with like, a $500,000 purchase price home. I mean, Orange County here, so it
Right.
like that's very
Well,
easy.
that's a basic 3-1 in Orange County.
Not even right now. You can't find anything for
Yeah.
$500,000
Yeah.
here. Like, yeah, 3-1 would be like 750 right now.
Yep.
But at the time, I was like, okay. I mean, this is recession time, so I was like, all right, like maybe something where the purchase price was like under 300,000 was kind of what I was going for. So condos kind of fit that bill.
Okay.
So I sent some letters and I would just talk to sellers, honestly, like on my lunch break. I would just, I would go to this park and I would get on my phone and I would call the sellers that responded to my direct mail. I would call them back. I would ask them questions and then I would take their information down and I would come up with offer prices. And then I would call them the next day with offers. I
Okay.
only had about an hour in
Okay.
my lunch. So I did that until I got my first deal. It took me probably 3 or 4 months to get my first
Gotcha.
deal.
So,
Yeah.
so what's your direct mail marketing at the time? Were you doing just handwritten yellow letters? What was the message on that direct marketing piece? Because a lot of people ask me, in regards to direct mail, what should I say? Is there some magic sentence or phrase, that would make your phone ring? What was your message?
Okay. So here's the deal with direct mail. I've done direct mail for years. You can pretty much say anything. Like there's
Yeah.
not like a magic sentence, like, but if you string the words right, together the right way, like, that'll compel the seller to call you.
Right.
No. But I had a good mail piece. I was getting, I would buy envelopes. I would buy forever stamps that had like the Disney Pixar,
Okay.
stamps, like Finding Nemo.
Okay.
And I would get someone to handwrite them. I paid a girl off Craigslist, and I can't remember how much I used to pay her because I haven't done this in so long. And I'll tell you why.
Yep.
Funny story after that. So she would handwrite, their name, and then I would do like a stamp for my return address or like a sticker for my return address. So it looked very personal.
Okay.
And yeah, it was just a direct mail piece, just on a piece of paper, 8.5 by 11, Times New Roman font, or like kind of
So
like that.
nothing fancy.
Nothing fancy. If anything,
Yep.
uglier the better. Like Times New Roman, ugly font, like, or and just it would just say dear, and it would be personal, dear Mr. Smith. I noticed you have a house on 123 Main Street. I am an interested buyer. I'm buying homes in the area. And something is
So
along those lines.
so for those who are getting started and don't know much about direct mail, where would you find these absentee owners or where would you find these sellers at? Was there a certain service that you used or what?
Yeah, so there are so many providers now. When I was getting into it, it was actually a lot more difficult to find information, but now they're everywhere. So if back then I was using List Source,
Okay.
but List Source, if it could get a little expensive unless you have like I know my students have a really good discount. but it could get a little bit expensive. Now you don't even need that. I use batchleads.io. If that's what I use now. There's other services like PropStream. Those are great providers of, of data. So.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
So you were doing direct mail. Tell us about that first deal when you got that inbound phone call, or once you made that offer, what was next? Kind of what was going through your head, because this is your first deal.
Yeah, well, I really struggled because I was not valuating properties correctly. I was actually, I was offering too low and I was being way too conservative.
Okay.
So I actually had this seller, kind of in my pile of sellers for quite a while. And it wasn't until I was doing this, direct mail, making offers for like 3 months. And I was like, gosh, I'm not getting like a deal. I'm not getting a deal. And it's because I was following this very basic, like 70% minus repair rule that I had heard on podcasts. And of course, like every seller in California was like, no way. You're
No,
out of your,
too
yeah,
too
you are
low.
out of your mind. Like, well, but I wrote the notes. Like I would always write, well, what did the seller want? And I wrote them on pieces of paper. This is like before I had a CRM. Like I would write them on these pieces of paper, and I would have a stack that was like kind of like, I need to make offers to these people. And then it was like, I made offers, now I'm like negotiating kind of back and forth, and they seem like they have more of a pulse.
Gotcha.
And there was total like kind of follow up, very cold people that I made offers, but they're just super cold, like tire kickers. So I'd have these three stacks, and I would just go through them every day. Well, I gave my, at the time I was partnering with my brother. He had just gotten sort of into the business about a year or two before I did. So he was still kind of newer too. But he definitely knew more than I did. And he was, an amazing mentor to have. So I showed him, I said, I've been doing this 3 months. I've made, I don't know, probably like 30 offers or something. I don't know at the time, but I made a lot of offers. It felt like a lot. And I showed him my little stack, my in negotiation stack. And he was like, hold on, this one. He's like, the seller said he would take that, and it's a condo in Laguna Niguel. And I was like, yeah, but that's not 70% minus repairs. And he was like, okay, call that guy back like immediately tomorrow. Get this thing signed. I was like, oh, how many did I do that for?
Yeah. That's one thing that I tell people, you can't have this standard rule that crosses all markets, because some markets will allow up to 85% of ARV, and some are, very, very, not aggressive, where you can offer way lower. So it's really knowing that market, so thank God for your brother.
Yeah. Great deal. We made a lot of money on that deal. And later I realized in my first year, I could have done way more deals. Yeah.
So what was the numbers on that deal? Let's kind of dig into that a little bit.
So it was so long ago, I don't even remember what I bought it for or sold it for, but I do remember the profit. So
you remember how much you made, huh?
Beginner's luck. When we bought it was like literally the last day of the housing crash, and the market started going up. Like it was literally the best timing ever. When we held it, it went up at least probably 15-20%, like just during the whole time. It was crazy. So yeah, I ended up netting, and my brother and I split it. So we net about $65,000 on that condo. And so I ended up with like 30, he ended up with 30. So I was already like about halfway through, like saving up a whole year's salary at that point. And then the beautiful thing was I found another condo, same numbers, same thing. So so after 1 year, I was like, all right, full-time job, quit.
Yep. I'm doing this full-time now.
I'm doing this. I just did this on my lunch break. Like, and I did realize like the power of entrepreneurialism, that like you really can make way more money with your time if you just have enough guts to be an entrepreneur.
Yep. So tell me, where did you guys find the buyer at for that deal?
Well, we flipped it. So I was a house My
Okay,
first,
gotcha.
I've been flipping homes for years, so that was like my
Okay.
first venture.
Okay, so that being your first flip, that's even better. Where did you find the contractor? Was it just using you and your brother's network? How did that all transpire? Because a lot of people, that's one of the biggest fears is that they say, okay, well, if I get this deal, I don't have a contractor. I don't know how to do this. I don't
Mhm.
know how to do that. Kind of walk us through that process.
Yeah, so I mean, at that time, my brother did have some experience, and but not a whole lot. I don't really know how many houses he'd maybe flipped 3 houses, I think. Like not, I mean, it wasn't a huge number, but it was enough to. He had way more experience than I did,
Okay.
and so I think at that time we were just trying out this handyman. I still actually use this handyman. I call him, he's my husband because I'm a single mom. And so, yeah, anytime I need something, I'm always like, Fidel, come here. I need you to just screw a light bulb for
Right.
me.
Help me out.
Help me. But he actually randomly was like my family used him for years. So we used him. He's a jack of all trades kind of guy. So he did a lot of the work. Him and his
Okay.
brother did like our first 2 condos. But I did graduate from Fidel to a more like actual licensed general contractor after that
Okay.
point. And that was actually through one of my end buyers. So I did start dabbling into wholesaling. And
Okay.
one of my end buyers used a contractor, and it was during a buyer walkthrough on a home I was wholesaling. They just sent their contractor. This actually happened a few times. So I started getting their contractor's information. I was like, well, hey, if I ever have a
Yep.
job, like, would you, whatever, maybe we could work together. And so I used their contractors. And it took maybe like 2 or 3 that I tried out. And then I found like the one. And like, I
Okay.
still to this day will like, if I haven't flipped a California house in quite a bit, but like I'll always go back to him. He's the one.
Well, and that's one of the things, and the reason why I ask is because one of the things people always ask me is, well, where do I find these contractors? How do I find these people? And I tell them, sometimes you just have to get in the business, and these things will start coming to you. That's how I found, one of my contractors was same thing, was wholesaling the house, and they sent the contractor over, and I was like, hey man, what if I need some help, in the future on something? Would you be willing to work with me? And we exchanged contact information, and he's been doing houses for us, for a while now. So that's one thing that I want to tell you guys as the listeners is sometimes you're not going to have all of your ducks in a row. You just got to get out there and get started, and then you'll start putting those pieces to the puzzle, together. So Lauren, transitioning from California, why did you leave California? I'm assuming that it was because it was difficult to find deals and the price point started going up.
Correct. It was very difficult. It turned into like if we're still talking, 70% minus repairs, we were at like a 90% minus repairs in California to be competitive.
Yep.
So yeah, I had to find another place. It was way too hard to find deals here. And the deals that we did buy, I mean, they were getting scary, like if you were even a hair off, you were losing your shirt. So
Yep.
yeah, so I diversified and I started, looking at different markets, and I just kind of randomly picked one. There was no logic behind it at all or
Okay.
any strategy. So I definitely learned from that experience as well.
So doing that, going virtual now, picking just some random market, that could be scary for a lot of people because they'll be like, well, I don't have anybody there on the ground. How do I know that I'm running the numbers right? How did you work yourself through that? Because that's some of the things that a lot of people look at. Even with me, when I transitioned to doing virtual, I picked a market that I was familiar with. God forbid if I would have said, and I'm going to go someplace I don't have any idea about, how are you able to do that? And then how were you able to work deals?
Yeah. So my first virtual market, again, this was like virtual wasn't really a thing at this time. There wasn't really a lot of education on virtual. It wasn't even really a buzzword.
Mm-hmm.
So I just had to make it work. My dad actually had a rental portfolio in Ohio growing up. So I did take some of the things that my dad did and I applied it to my business. I thought, well, my dad did it, like this, managing his rentals. Like maybe I could do the same thing with managing flips. But here's basically the story. So I was at a seminar in Nashville, Tennessee, and I had decided over that weekend that I was like, I have to find a way to go virtual and buy out of state. So I'm in this place called Nashville and it's awesome. Like, why don't I go look up cash buyers and I'll drive around and look at jobs and just see like what they look like. Like, what do flip houses here look like? What do the neighborhoods look like? And with that data, which I at the time got from ListSource, I just looked up last 6 months absentee owned purchases. With that data, I could see the purchase price and then I could usually look it up and it was listed by that point.
Okay.
I was looking for the ones that were more further out. So I was able to see the spreads. So here's the thing though. I was driving and I was like, how come these houses all look brand new? Like, I'm so confused. These don't look like flips. This house looks like it was just built. But then it was in a neighborhood where there were all old homes. Like, I just didn't understand what's going on. And there was like, construction, like on every street, there would be like a house under construction where it looked like they knocked one home down and they put two in its place. So there was like rezoning and like all sorts of interesting things going on. And I was like, what is this? This is so weird. I've never seen anything like this because I'm from California. We don't do that here. So I saw a guy at a job site. I pulled over and I was like, hey, like, are you the project manager? He was like, yeah, I am. And so we got to talking. I was like, what is going on in this place? He's like, you don't know that there's like this housing boom here in Nashville? And I was like, no, why would I know that?
Right.
So yeah, we started talking and he told me the numbers. Like, I was like, well, what are the numbers in this job? He was like, well, the owner, he's like, I'm just the builder. They would call them builders. Really, he was a general contractor, but like in Nashville, they'd say, I'm a builder.
Okay.
And he'd say, but this was owned by someone else, but actually I helped him get this contract. And I was like, what do you mean you helped him get the contract on the home? He's like, oh, well, like someone I know had this deal and then we sold him, the contract. I was like, oh, you wholesaled this lot. Like, I put words in, like,
right.
He's a builder. He kind of didn't speak the total investment language. I was like, oh, you wholesaled it essentially. Like, and he's like, yeah, I made a little bit of money just by selling him that. And, I was like, okay. I was like, so
right, I got it.
I got what you're doing. I catch what you're throwing. Now, hold on. You get contracts like this. Like, who are you getting them from? He's like, I'm getting them from a realtor. And I was like, okay. So he ran through the numbers and I learned like, okay, the law, I mean, they don't overcomplicate it there. That's a beautiful thing about it. They're like, he ran through the numbers. He's like, you can pretty much get them for $100,000 a pad. If you get them any cheaper, like the rest is gravy, but $100,000 a pad. And then, you could do anywhere from $85 per square foot to $100 per square foot for new build costs.
Gotcha.
If you want to build like a 1,600 square foot house, it might cost you about $160,000 to build the house plus the 100,000. So you're all in 260, and these things were selling like for $350,000, like anywhere from 330 to 350. So I was like, okay, hold on. Show me a few of these. So he actually drove me around and he showed me the jobs he had. He had like 4 jobs going on. And so I got to walk through them and see them. And then we even went on an inspection. He was like, I have to actually inspect one at, like at 2:00. Do you want to come? I was like, yeah. I mean, this is like a guy I met on the side of the road. Okay. Like literally we hung out for 2 hours. And that was like, at the end of it, I said, okay, I have the money. I have private, I'd raised enough private money at this point because I'd flipped enough homes. So I was like, I've got the money. I'll buy into this all day long. Like, you find me the lots. So that was it. The rest was history. And we started working together. And that was my first virtual venture. And it was super easy. Actually, building homes was way easier. Where it got harder was when I tried to actually flip houses virtually.
Oh, virtually. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not my jam.
So you gave us a lot of stuff in there. So let's kind of chop some things down here. So you're in Nashville. You're looking at Tennessee. It's a big boom there. Again, being entrepreneurial, you're driving around. And I thought it was just me, but I often do this. I just did this earlier this week. I was in Indianapolis and I was just driving around and I'm looking at houses and I'm like, oh, okay, I like this area. I like what they're doing. So to make a long story short, so you ran into this contractor or builder and you just started talking to him. Again, it's about getting out there, doing the work, and what you need will start coming to you. So you said that you had private capital from doing your flips in California. How did you raise the private capital? Was it just from showing people your experience with the flips that you were doing? Let's go into that. That'll be step one on this question.
So the way I got started with private capital, and I think, anybody could do this, is for your first few deals, partner up with someone else who has private capital. So just go into your first few deals knowing that you are going to joint venture partner, and that person is going to bring in the capital and the experience. You're just going to bring the deal. I did that for 2 deals. My first 2 were with my brother. My brother actually had the capital partner at that point.
Okay.
So first 2 deals I had that. So now, hey, I have experience.
Yep.
I'm basically professional at this point. Like, at least I sold myself like I was. I thought I was pretty good. So, that gave me my first 2 under my belt. And at that point, I just started, opening up my mouth. Now, I did use hard money for a long time, and hard money is easy to find. There are plenty of hard money lenders. There are a dime a dozen. So I really only had to come up with the portion that hard money would not cover. So that might look like $100,000 for a California flip home. And then hard money would cover the rest. Like the hard money usually would cover about 70% of the entire investment at that time. They've gotten way more aggressive, I think, now, but at that time,
I had somebody reach out to me. They would do 90 on the acquisition and 100 on the rehab. So it's like, okay, I only got to bring 10% to the deal, to the table. Sure, let's do it.
Yeah, they'll like pay you to flip a house.
Like,
and we'll pay you. I mean, we'll do anything. Yeah, no, so I only maybe would have to come up with like $100,000. So I just kind of looked at it like, okay, who do I have? And I would do it like $100,000 increments. Like that guy I know has $100,000. This person I know has $100,000. It always seemed to be like these 100,000 chunks. Like I hadn't gotten into the super high net worth individuals quite yet, but I got into kind of the people that had home equity line of credits. Like I would use someone's home equity line of credit because they were only paying like 4% or something, maybe 4 to 4.5%. And I was giving them 12% interest. So they were making money off of their equity on their home. So I kind of started out like that. And then once you do well, like of those maybe 5 people I started with, they found more money, they would suddenly come up on money. And then it also turned into people approaching me. I would maybe post my deals on Facebook. I'd post some photos. I'd say, if anybody wants to work on some flip projects with me and you have capital to invest, reach out. And I would get investors like that all the time.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I tell people. I tell them, I said, finding money is not the problem. That's the easiest thing to do, especially if you have somewhat of a track record. Even if you're starting as a wholesaler, you can still find the money and tell people, look, here's the deal that I have, I'm buying it at X. This is what the ARV is on it. Would you like to invest with me in this project? You're going to make, 14, 15, 16%, on your money. And most logical investors, if you have any kind of relationship with them, they'll want to do that because they're looking at what they can make on the back end. So guys, just remember, don't let money be something that is a game changer or a stopper for you. Go out there and find a deal. Believe me, the money is out there. So Lauren, you're raising this capital. You have it now. How did you sell your investors on using their money out of state?
So out of state, at this point, I'd already done, several deals. They knew I was good for it. Like a lot of, I think one thing that's important about private money, because I've seen a lot of people raise money, and I can almost sniff out the ones that shouldn't be.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is a quality that, some people have. Like, even though I had maybe 2 deals under my belt at first, and then I started approaching people like, hey, would you, want to do this? Those people knew me as a person, and they knew I'm pretty prudent. And I would probably die before I wouldn't pay someone back. Like,
Yep.
they just know that. I have that character. And I think if you have that character, that will come off, and people will know, like, okay, this is a trustworthy person. This person they would pay me before they paid themselves. That's very helpful. So having that character does, help. There are a lot of smooth talkers out there that raise money,
Mm-hmm.
and it's scary.
Yeah.
But
Track record is everything. I mean,
yeah,
you don't listen to what a person say, just watch what they do. If you're concerned
right.
about, investing your money with someone, just watch them over a period of, 5, 6, 7 months, and you will definitely find out and find your answers, so that's good that you had that positive relationship with those investors, Lauren, because now it's able for you to expedite, and expedite your investment. So now you're in how many did you do in Nashville? What all did you do in Nashville?
So yeah, Nashville was like turned into flipping homes and building homes and wholesaling a lot of homes. There were a lot of hedge funds out there. And so a lot of it was actually quite easy to wholesale houses, wholesale lots. So I just did kind of a mix of things for maybe 2 years. But what happened was it turned into like another California. Like, it was extremely competitive. The neighborhoods were changing so fast that I could not keep up with it. Neither could Google Earth. Like, it was,
Okay.
you would look in a neighborhood on Google Earth, and I'd have no idea that neighborhood was completely wiped out, and that there were like condos being built there. And like, I just sounded, over the phone, we would sound like we didn't know the area at all, but it's because we just weren't that local enough. So that's part of the trial and error, that process that I went through. I didn't have a mentor in virtual. So that was a trial and error on picking the right virtual market. In hindsight, that probably wasn't the best virtual market to have chosen. So I got out, and I picked a more balanced market that's more of like a landlord market.
Okay.
So that was like kind of a hard lesson. I wouldn't say that hard, because I did fine, but like, it was a lesson that like kind of I now coach my students, don't pick a market that's like in the news for like extreme growth. Instead, pick your more like balanced kind of bread and butter landlord market.
So picking those markets, because that was one of the things that I wanted to touch on, because you are a coach, you do coach students. How do you help them pick that right market? I know you said, sort of the flatline landlord market. So give me maybe 1 or 2 instances. It may not be the exact market that you're in, but something like that market. So people will know what they need to look for when going into, a virtual market.
Yeah, so I definitely learned a lot along the way. And now I have a bunch of students, and I have to help them, pick out their markets as part of my program. And I do give some parameters. The top one that's above anything else is search for the proven concept. So if you are going into a market, so usually what I'll say, now I get students blank slate. Okay. They're like, nothing, right? And I'll say, okay, where are places that people, where are places you once lived, where's places you went to college at, like start writing down a list of just different places. Cause there are a lot of counties in the United States. We don't all have to be in Indianapolis. Funny you said Indianapolis or Phoenix. We don't all have to be there. You have no idea how many of my students want to be in Indianapolis for some reason. I don't know. I'm like, everybody, it's like, you guys all gravitate to the same places. Like, it's like, back of places you've been, people that have lived there, moved there, start with that. Then search for the proven concept. So what does that even mean? That means go see if there are other people that are successfully doing the disposition strategy that you are choosing to do. So I get students that are landlord buyers. I get students that burr properties. I get students that fix and flip. I get students that whatever. So I call those disposition strategies.
Yep.
Most of my students, majority is wholesalers. So
Okay.
go look in that county on maybe Facebook, or Bigger Pockets, or great areas where a lot of investors congregate, and look for other people that are successfully doing what you are trying to do. If it's difficult to find people that are successfully doing what you're trying to do, that's an indication that it's not an easy market to be in. So I can give two examples, and they're two very different examples.
Okay.
One would be, my dad grew up in Yorksville, Ohio. My dad had his rental portfolio there only because he grew up in Yorksville. He wanted an excuse to go back home and see his mom. So he ended up just owning neighborhoods in Yorksville. As far as Yorksville is so small. Okay. There was only one other guy that owned rentals in Yorksville, Ohio. That's how small. So would Yorksville be somewhere that I would recommend you go virtual in? No, not at all. It worked for my dad, but even my dad said in hindsight, he wishes he would have chose a bigger area. So that's one example. Another example is there is a market that I am in that's very close to the one that I would say is my better market. They're very close to each other. You would think they look like twins. Okay. They have the similar population. The price point is the same. So statistical and analytical data would suggest that they would be the same market.
Same market.
No. When I went to this market, I asked around, I looked for other wholesalers. I wanted a joint venture, with people. And I could not find one successful wholesaler there.
Wow.
And they said no wholesale. People would say, yeah, it's weird. Wholesalers don't seem to make it here. Every once in a while you see them come in and they just go right out. And I still to this day, well, of course, I'm stubborn. I was like, well, then I'll be the wholesaler.
I'll be the first, right? I'll make it happen.
Then I'm going to do it because there's no competition, but there's tons of population and the numbers make sense. I'm going to be that wholesaler. So in hindsight, I wish I would did not pick that market, because it's still to this day, yes, I'm probably the number one wholesaler there. And it is still my more difficult market. It's harder to find buyers. It's just they're off market transactions are it's not very heavy there. There's not really an active RIA there, which I've noticed that's actually one of the issues, is there's not an active RIA, a real estate investment association.
So let me ask you this then, Lauren. Is it predominantly a renter's market, or okay, so there's no fix and flip or limited fix and flip activity going on in that market?
Yeah, it's predominant renters. But it's still, you would think it's literally exactly like many areas in the United States that are very easy areas, but a lot of it is that there's not the buyer base.
Gotcha.
So literally, we would market our contracts, and these fix and flip investors or these landlords would think we are shady. They'd be like, what do you mean you have a contract on a house? And I was like, what have you guys been living under a rock?
Right.
What are you have you ever what?
Where
how do you not, where have you been? This is a thing. I don't understand. But yeah, it's literally because there was not an established. I think it's because there's not an established RIA there.
Okay.
Okay.
So going into a new market, so we talked about the market parameters that you're looking for. What would be one of the next steps that you would tell your student, again, without giving away your secret sauce and what you're, coaching your students on? What would be the next thing should they look for? Should they look for another wholesaler so they can JV with or partner with? What would be the next thing?
Right. So I would call still like what you just mentioned more of the proven concept. You definitely want to look for other people that are successful. So the wholesaler to JV, that to me is proven concept. The next thing would be avoid areas where the prices are too high and the prices are too low.
Gotcha.
So you don't want, at least I don't want, like to be where if you go on Zillow and the average house price in the county is like $50,000. Like I have no interest in those areas. Those are kind of war zone areas. You would really have to know the streets really well to know like, oh, this is the bad part of town. And then this is the really bad part of town.
Right.
You know? Yeah. Like
Okay.
you don't, I'm good with that. And then, you don't want too high. So I would say, above 300,000 average house price might be where you start getting where it gets a little bit more heated, the hot market,
okay.
Upper scale, not for California, but,
Right.
where I've noticed that, my students have had a harder time finding deals because essentially, really this whole business comes down to one thing. When you're getting discounted properties, and all it is being able to convince a seller to take a discount on their house. That's it.
Yep.
Okay. This whole business right there. I solved it for you guys. You guys can now stop listening to podcasts. Can you convince a seller to take a discount on their property in this area? Well, when the average house price is $750,000 and you need at least a maybe 20% discount to 30% discount to make sense in this deal after you pay hard money, after you pay your closing costs, realtor commissions, all that stuff. Okay. Like if you need to get, say, a 30% discount, 30% of $750,000 is a lot of money.
Yep.
And so a seller is going to tell you to pound sand when they hear what that discount looks like realistically. Like you just offered me like $200,000 less than my house is worth.
Exactly.
Like you are a jerk. That's what they're going to say. Now that in like a middle of the road where the average house price is $150,000, I mean, that could look
more
like
respectable.
That's a respectable offer. Like you'll find lots of comps where homes went for that price, So
and that's kind of where I'm at when I do wholesale deals in Chicago. It's, we're in that area where maybe the ARV is 250 tops, but normally they're around 175 to 200. And so when we're making those offers, at 50, 60, $70,000, it's a lot more respectable, especially because a lot of the houses are older. Maybe it's a grandparent that passed away, something like that, so these kids, they just don't want to do anything with the property. So it's respectable for them. But again, when you're in those higher price points, $750,000 and you're asking them, hey, I'll give you 450, 500 for it. They're like, hey, get away from me. I'm going to report you to the police and stuff.
Seriously, this is elder abuse. Like, what do you got?
Yep. Absolutely.
And it's not the seller's best option. And I didn't feel good about that. There was a certain point where I said, the prices are going up so high. When there was a lot of distress in California, I felt, this is a good offer for your situation. It's an opportunity to help. When the prices went up 20, 30% after the recession, it started feeling like predatory.
Yep. No, I completely understand. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I shifted from Phoenix also. It was because, the price points start running up really, really quick. And then it was like, okay, how can I offer this person, with integrity, $200,000 less than what their property is worth? It just didn't make sense, So Lauren, we're going to take a brief break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about, you introduce your coaching program, kind of what you're doing. So let's take a quick break, hear a word from our sponsors, and then we'll be right back.
Okay. PropStream is the industry's #1 tool for locating distressed properties and connecting with highly motivated sellers. With 100% coverage across the U.S., PropStream provides a deep dive into any property's specific details, making it easy to generate lists of distressed properties and contact to the owners. No other product or service can compare. Gain access to MLS property details like expired listings. You can pull accurate comps, even sale prices in non-disclosure states. This information is typically reserved for licensed real estate professionals, but it is also available to you in PropStream. Gain access to unlimited nationwide property search, comparable home sales, targeted marketing lists, and owner contact lookup, built-in marketing tools, hundreds of filters to search and sort leads. Start your free 7-day trial now by going to proud.propstreampro.com/WeLoveEquity.
Okay, Lauren, welcome back, guys. We have Lauren here. She is a virtual fix and flipper, virtual investor out of Southern California, and we're going to talk about what she do to help investors get started going into virtual markets. So, Lauren, we kind of touched on it already. How can people reach you? How can they find you and get more information about, making a transition into virtual investing?
Well, I have a coaching program now. So I am a Wholesaling Inc. coach and I coach virtual. So
Okay.
yeah, for those who are, I'm sure there's a lot probably familiar with Wholesaling Inc. We've got a great podcast, tons of free information there. I'm hosting it now, and a lot of my topics are typically virtual. And yeah, my coaching program, the link is virtualinvestingmastery.com. So if anyone is looking for a coaching program, you would want to apply there. But if you just want to follow me and kind of get to know me as a, person, as an investor, and my style to see if, you like it and like what what I'm about, find me on Instagram. My handle is This Mom Flips.
Okay. This Mom Flips. So tell me, Lauren, what sets your coaching program apart from all of these, and I don't want to call you a guru by no means, but all of these other gurus that are not in the industry actually doing deals, but are just out trying to coach people on, how to get started?
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that are different. First of all, I remember what it was like to struggle. I was not in an easy market to start. So I got, punched in the face a lot being in California and trying to make this business work. I actually do have the experience of educators that don't live in my market, and they were giving me advice that did not apply to California. So they didn't have the perspective component. I have the perspective component because I've been in all of the types of markets. I've been in flipper markets, developer markets, landlord markets. So I know like how each one operates. So even though maybe I've never been in Indianapolis, but I can tell you the game. And I can tell you how to be successful there really quickly. I can tell what kind of market, you're in, because I've done all those types of markets. For me, a lot of the frustration, and I recall, I was in California and I'm going, gosh, I can't close any deals. Like, what's going on? And my mentors and the educators that I bought coaching programs from, they were like, well, gosh, that's weird. It's working for us. Now they live in they're living in Louisville. Yeah, no, literally, like Louisville was one of them. Like they live in Louisville, and they're like, well, just send more direct mail, and I'm like, cool. So now I'm broke because I've literally spent $15,000 on direct mail and have not gotten a deal from it. So that's exciting. So yeah, like I really went through that. Those are real stories. Like I had where I spent so much money on direct mail out of bad, advice from educators that did not have any idea what my market was like. They didn't get it. So I would say that, when you are looking for an educator, whether it's myself or anyone else, of course I'm biased and say, yeah, I'm great. But whether you're looking for an educator, find an educator that has that perspective of the type of market you're in. Don't get an educator that lives, you know, in a complete, like, and they operate in a completely different type of market than you do.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah. And I mean, also I've been in this business 8 years. Every year I've purchased seminars, coaching programs, even when I had well enough experience and I did not need a coaching program that came in like a traditional, maybe like course type thing. I would still buy every year to make sure that I am in the cutting edge of what
Staying
people are
relevant.
doing. I'm staying relevant.
Yep.
And so my coaching program is a compilation of all the coaching programs I've taken, and I've taken what I notice works well, and then also what doesn't work. I've tried to make mine very like lots of direction, very short and concise versus just long going on and
Right.
on and on.
Gotcha.
People, as much as you want to listen to me talk, and I do talk a lot, you lose people after 3 modules.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Lauren, tell us, what's next? What's next for you? What are you doing? What are you aspiring to right now?
Well, this coaching program just got launched just a couple months ago officially. So I am very dedicated to my students right now. I just want to see my students doing deals. So that's kind of my focus right now, is just getting my
Okay.
students deals.
Sounds great. Sounds great. So, all right, Lauren, we are going to put you on the hot seat. So I have these 5 or 6 questions to put you on a hot seat so we can really get some in-depth information about Lauren. So Lauren, starting over, what would you do differently?
100%, I would have partnered with somebody from like for a while. I'm not counting that I partnered with my brother for 2 deals. I would have probably partnered for the next few years with somebody who is a very high volume investor.
Gotcha.
Someone who
Okay.
was way further off than I was.
Gotcha. So that mentorship again, so you can learn. Okay. What is your greatest commodity outside of capital?
Like me personally,
Yes.
my greatest commodity, my sunny disposition.
Okay. All right. What is one thing you can do to be more productive?
Uh, give someone my children.
Well, that wouldn't tie into the next question, which is what drives your ambition? I was going to say your kids possibly, but now you're trying to give them away.
Yeah. What drives my ambition is the fear of having to get a job,
Gotcha.
because
Gotcha.
I am afraid of not being there for my kids the
Okay.
way I want to be there for them.
And that's something, because when you have people that have that entrepreneurial spirit, that's their biggest fear. You know, that's for me, it's like, I do not want to have to go and work for someone, because I know me, I'll get in there and I'll be like, you know what, this is not right. This is not right. This is not right. Look, let me show you how you can do this business better. You know, so, okay, great, great. So what do you believe is your greatest challenge? If it's internal or external, what do you see as a big challenge for you?
You know, I've had this challenge for a long time, and I can honestly say I conquered it about a year ago. It was fear.
Perfect, perfect. And you know what the thing about it is, when you talk to a lot of people getting started, and even people that season, that's one of the things that stopped us from going further faster, was the fear. Okay, I need to analyze this. What if I get it wrong? People are going to think I'm crazy. You know, what if this, what if that? And all of those bad things really keep you on the sideline for a while. And then finally, Lauren, what is the latest business or real estate book that you've read, or podcast or something like that?
I'm reading The Road Less Stupid, and it is such a good book. Have you read
Interesting.
that?
No, I haven't.
It's
No, I
good.
haven't.
It's
Okay,
good.
so The Road Less Stupid. I'll make
Yeah.
sure I put all of that information in the show notes, and I'm going to read it myself, you know, because I love reading, love to get that insight.
Yeah.
So, Lauren, before we leave, what do you have for us? How can we reach you again? You know, you talked about Wholesaling Inc. Give us your social media handles, for those people that want to reach out to you and say, you know what, I really connect with Lauren. Let me reach out to her.
I love Instagram. I'm on Instagram a lot, so my account's pretty active. So This Mom Flips, find me on Instagram. I'm also Lauren Hardy on Facebook, and if you are interested in the program, it's virtualinvestingmastery.com.
Okay, guys, so you got all of the information. You know what to do. Get out there, get going. Lauren, I really appreciate it. Thank you for bringing a different perspective as far as doing deals virtually. I know that everyone got great content and great insight from you. Again, thank you. Enjoy your week, and I look forward to speaking with you in the future.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, guys, thank you so much, Lauren. You guys know what to do. Always remember to enjoy the journey. All right, guys, that was Lauren Hardy from Southern California. She is a virtual investor. She virtually does fix and flips, wholesales, things of that nature. So, guys, I wanted to bring you something a little bit different. I know I always talk about virtual wholesaling and virtually doing deals. So she laid it out, some of the key things that you need to do when you're looking at going into a market. So you have that information, use it, take it. That way, if you're in a very, very competitive market, or like Lauren, in a high price market and the numbers just don't make sense, you can always go somewhere else. So, guys, I just wanted to bring that to you. Thank you for joining us. Remember, you can always go to marcusemaloney.com for all of your information, your wholesaling and investing needs, or you can join us. Remember, every Tuesday and Friday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where I do a live Facebook and live Instagram in regards to some of the things that's going on in the industry. So I call it the 2-minute meetup and the Fun Fact Friday. So guys, thank you for joining us. Remember to always enjoy the journey. Thank you for listening to today's show. I picked up some great actionable items, and I'm sure you did as well. If so, let me know. You can always reach me via social media at facebook.com/MRCSMaloney, Twitter at MRCSMaloney, and of course, IG at MRCSMaloney. You can also always reach me via email at mmaloney@equityri.com. Make sure you reach out to our guests as well. You can always find their contact information in the show notes below. If you have not subscribed already, what are you waiting for? Join the family. And while you're at it, leave us a 5-star review. This is how we tell if we're providing you with what you need for your journey. If there's someone you would like for me to interview, or if there's a subject matter you would like for me to cover, please let me know. Finally, if you're looking for additional information about real estate investing, go to equityrealestateblog.com. Also, youtube.com/Marcus Maloney. Until next time, family, always enjoy the journey.